By the way, why do you suppose Yahweh arranged for two godly men, and only two, to be translated or raptured without suffering death, to exit stage right from history, as it were, to wait in the wings for their last and greatest scene? It's because of the last-minute timing he has planned for the rapture. Think about it. If the rapture of the church had taken place sometime early, within the 2,000-year span of time between the first century advent of Christ and the one that's in our near future, something Yahshua never specifically ruled out, there would have been, theoretically, plenty of time for a new generation of saints to discover Yahshua, search the Scriptures, and mature enough for two of them to be chosen for this incredibly tough role the script calls for. But now we're out of time. At this late date, it seems to me that if the rapture were to take place as soon as next year's Feast of Trumpets, there would hardly be enough time left to convert, educate, and grow a sufficiently thick skin on two new believers. And the closer we get to the beginning of the 7th millennium, the Feast of Tabernacles 2033, if my observations are valid, the more likely it becomes that anyone converted after the rapture could look the devil straight in the eye without flinching, as the two witnesses will have to do. Don't get me wrong, it's not that Yahweh couldn't do it like that. It's just that he told us that he's going to accomplish his purposes another way, with Elijah and, if I'm right, Enoch. It puts a whole new wrinkle in the saying, he has made everything beautiful in its time, as it says in Ecclesiastes 3:11. By this point, at the fulcrum of the tribulation, all the secrets have been divulged, all the subterfuges have been revealed, all the lines have been drawn in the sand. Satan has been evicted from heaven. He knows he's only got a short time left, and now the hapless inhabitants of planet Earth are going to receive his personal and undivided attention until Yahweh says, enough. The Antichrist's one-world government is a reality, in theory, if not quite in practice. Every nation on the globe, save one, officially acknowledges his suzerainty, even though their local governments still function much as they had previously. Just as Colorado and Maine have state governments that function independently while they acquiesce to the federal government of the United States of America, so will Canada and Mozambique and hundreds of other nations who owe their allegiance to the United States of Earth. Since this is the stepchild of the United Nations, one might have expected its world headquarters to be located in New York, but the Antichrist will find this city completely unacceptable, especially considering America's post-war status as a second-rate power, broken as much by internal dissent as by nuclear devastation. No, there is only one suitable place for the Antichrist's capital, Jerusalem, the most coveted city on earth. But the Palestinians are dead and the Jews have fled, making the place a no-man's land of sorts, fit only for politicians and warriors. Considering the recent history of the place, the irony is stunning. Here and there, all over the globe, small pockets of new believers have gone underground, sometimes literally, in hopes of avoiding the Antichrist's state police and outlasting his reign of terror. The only remotely organized resistance, strangely enough, is occurring right under the Antichrist's nose. The duly elected government of Israel is alone in the world in refusing to sign the accords making him king of the world, or more accurately, the government is unable to raise a quorum. The vast majority of the Knesset members who are still alive are AWOL, having joined the impromptu rebellion. This doesn't stop the Antichrist from achieving official unanimity, of course. He simply appoints a new government, reminiscent of Hitler's Vichy France. It's not real, but the reality of the situation never makes the 6 o'clock news. With no apparent leader and no stated agenda, a large contingent of the Israeli populace have instinctively refused to honor the new world leader, refused to receive his mark of allegiance, and refused to bow to his image. The moment the Antichrist announced his divine aspirations, millions of Jews, as if on cue, spontaneously grabbed their families and fled from their homes in Israel. They're now hiding out in the Negev, in the Gaza Strip, in the Badlands of the newly depopulated Jordan, or who knows where. Even with all their sophisticated electronics, the Antichrist's techno-wizards don't really know where they are. The army he sent out in pursuit were never heard from again. They were simply swallowed by the desert. The Jews have fled simply because they have come to terms with the reality of Yahweh. They now realize that they have kept themselves estranged from Him for the last 2,000 years, and they long to reestablish their relationship the nation once had with their God. Like the Israelites under the judges, they are crying out to Yahweh to deliver them, and deliver them He shall. But since much of the prophetic detail concerning this time is recorded in the New Covenant Scriptures, the Jews are only dimly aware of what to expect. Of course, that doesn't stop them from cheering for the two witnesses who have suddenly shown up like ants at the Antichrist's picnic. The media will drool over the chance to expose these two horrible men. They'll air TV documentaries about the plagues they cause and the gruesome, fiery deaths of the poor unfortunates who try to apprehend them. But they'll do their best to suppress part of the story. These two enemies of political correctitude incessantly talk about Christ, the Messiah, Yahshua, Jesus, and His impending return. The editors have to work overtime to glean usable sound bites from these two uncooperative weirdos. Even then, some of their seditious propaganda will get through. Some leaks out because the newsies simply don't understand what the witnesses are talking about. For example, when asked point blank by the world's most respected news anchors how their God, a deity the witnesses referred to as Yahweh or Yahshua, fits into all this, they quote,
"As many as received Him, to them He gave the right to become children of God, and those who believe in His name, who were born not of blood, nor the will of flesh, nor the will of man, but of God." John 1:12-13.
What does that mean, anyway? It's utter gibberish to those aligned with the New World Order, but to the tribulation saints, the people who want to follow Yahweh even if they don't quite know how, even if His name is a new and unfamiliar epiphany to them, it means hope and inner peace in a time of madness and death. To believe in His name is to be born anew into a very divergent reality, not into the human race, but into the very family of God. The media monarchs are as proud as peacocks for having summoned the courage to talk face to face with these religious terrorists, a phenomenon known as the Geraldo effect, and thrilled with their subsequent Nielsen numbers. In reality, they're in no particular danger as long as they don't try to assassinate anything more tangible than the witness's character. After patiently explaining who Yahweh and Yahshua is to the ignorant elite, Elijah and Enoch, in the same tactful and diplomatic way they had when they'd walked the earth in centuries past, announced that unless the world repents, it will receive no rain, and only their word will bring it back. This, of course, is brushed off as the ravings of a matched pair of lunatics for a few weeks, until it becomes apparent that all over the globe no precipitation is falling. That can't happen, the experts insist, because it has never happened. When the news people confront Elijah with that bit of information, he smiles, shrugs, and says, "Well, if you say so." Months pass with no rain, and the world turns desperate. But the scientists have discovered the source of the problem, and it isn't these two nutcases in Jerusalem. The sun's energy output has suddenly and inexplicably increased, they say, and that, combined with an ozone layer torn to shreds by the recent nuclear holocaust, has changed the Earth's weather patterns. You two are frauds. You have no power to curse the earth, and there's no blankety-blank reason we should repent from anything. The indomitable human spirit announces an all-out push to develop new sources of fresh water. The main thrust, ironically, is something of which Israel was the world's foremost supplier until the war began: water desalination technology. This time it's Enoch who answers. That's Mr. Enoch to you. You can deny our signs all you want, but you cannot deny the power of the living God. Because this ungodly generation has refused to turn from its ungodly ways, I declare that all the fresh water in Europe this week will turn to blood. Next week, the same thing will happen in South America. The week after that, let's say Asia. No, North America, east of the Rockies. We'll save Asia for week number 4 and America west of the Rockies for week 5. There is blood on your hands, O earth. Now there will be blood on your lips as well. Repent! Turn to Yahweh. The scientists' skepticism is shaken somewhat when the next month plays out exactly as Enoch had said it would. They immediately set out to pinpoint some natural explanation for this latest round of ecological disasters and try to figure out how these two ecstatics could guess what's coming with such uncanny accuracy. One thing's for sure, this sure isn't the judgment of God as they claim. It can't be. Everybody knows there's no God but Lucifer. Sorry to pop your bubble, big guys, but actually the Creator's name is Yahweh. Lucifer is nothing but a creature. And Yahweh's patience with a world that refuses to return His love, that even refuses to acknowledge His existence, is wearing thin. But there are a few bright spots. Gentiles are beginning to wake up from the nightmare they invited into the world, and many of them are turning to Yahshua as a result, even though they are bringing down a death sentence upon themselves for doing so. And what about the Jews, this minuscule fraction of 1% of the earth's population, this minority that looms so large in the mind of God? It is as Yahshua said less than a week before He offered Himself up as their perfect Passover lamb.
O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who were sent to her, how often I wanted to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate, and assuredly I say to you, you shall not see me until the time comes when you say, Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. Luke 13:34-35.
Israel has never said those words in the entire 2 millennia since He who comes in the name of Yahweh came and left. But as they hide themselves in the wilderness from the wrath of Satan and the Antichrist, as they ponder the implications of all that has come to pass, they will slowly, inexorably, come to the realization that they were wrong. The time will come when they will say with a whole heart, Blessed is Yahshua, who comes in the name of Yahweh.